Hey, welcome back to another episode of Shake Sales. I've got Thibaut here from SalesLab. Really excited to talk to him today about how he leverages AI for outbound sales prospecting, as well as many other things in his outbound sequence. Thibaut, welcome.
Yes, Sujan, thanks so much for having me on the show. I'm very excited to talk about that with you.
Awesome. So tell me, before we jump into AI, tell me a little bit about yourself, the company, what you guys do.
Sure. So basically, I'm a French guy based in France, and what I do is I train and coach Texas people to start more conversations, and basically book more meetings and get more money in their pocket at the end of the month. And I do that through different things. Mostly, I share a lot of tips on LinkedIn. I have a newsletter where I share with 5,000 readers how they can get book more meetings. A bunch of online courses, so I do plenty of things. But mostly my idea and the goal is really to help salespeople book more meetings. So that's what I do. And recently I've been doing that with a lot of AI and namely ChatGPT. So, that's something I'm excited to talk about.
Love it. So let's just jump in. So first and foremost, like how are you using ChatGPT as well as just AI in general for your outbound? Like what specifically are you using it for?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so many use cases. That's the crazy thing about AI is that you see use case for everything all the time. But, there's some that are really interesting, mostly in terms of prospect research. So what we find is that personalization at scale is often really complicated to find. And so what I've found with AI is you can easily go and brainstorm, for example, your prospects' problems. So what I could do if I wanted to reach out to you, I could ask ChatGPT to act like you and to list your top 3 challenges for 2023. And so what it's going to do is get an idea, and the more, data you feed it, if I talk about Mailshake, what you're doing, typically it's going to be able to come up with some really interesting answers. Some won't be that great, but then there's going to be an idea of how we can do that. So brainstorming ideas of problems, then digging a bit deeper with symptoms. What are the symptoms we can find? And that's really a good idea on basically doing a bit of research. And then I can use that with the output to kind of start a conversation with you and try to find if you have a problem. So that's an example of how we can do this. There's a lot for prospect research where you can summarize a lot of data. So if you have a long LinkedIn profile, I can save it to PDF, take this text, put it into ChatGPT and ask it to find some personalization elements to actually reach out to you. So that would be, if you went to you did, let's say, a private tutoring as your first job, I could mention that, I could show that I've done some research and it's going to really help me with saving time. And another use case would be to actually build cold outreach messages. So you're going to show and train ChatGPT what is a good cold email, for example, and then it's going to come up with, the template you showed in an example is going to come up with the same kind of variations for other problems. So these are 3 examples.
Love it. I like the fact that you're using it not just for the basic write this email for me, right? I think that's a very simple use case, and there's a lot of, absolutely you could do that. But you're doing it for, here's all the data on this person. Yeah. What are they going to face, right? What are problems they're facing? I love the fact that you're using it for brainstorming and digging deeper on that person. Amazing. I don't think I've seen many people do that. So then, okay, you get a bunch of information, not always good stuff. So I'm assuming you're filtering it. What next? Like, do you take those and like have a copywriter write the email? Are you writing the email, or are you using AI for that? How does that work from there?
So typically what I found is that if you go and ask ChatGPT, for example, and you can think about all the AI tools are connected to the ChatGPT API. So that's, what you see very often. And you say, write me a cold email. The cold email will really suck. So it's going to be very long and very bad. And so what's very interesting is to show it what a good framework looks like. So for me, I like to have I have a library of nice frameworks that I use. There's one, for example, called Doodle Math, where I would go and say, hey, typically, Sujan, we see that we have, 3% reply rate on average on cold outbound. And, if you manage to go to 10%, typically you're going to make, 12K more every month or something like that. And basically I'm going to, show ChatGPT how to structure this message. So what are the elements of the cold email? Then show an example of what is this cold email looks like, on some specific data, and then ask it to come up with that. And so You don't really need to send it to a copywriter or anything. You just need to take this data, make it yours, make it a bit, maybe more precise sometimes because can be a bit too wordy. And then what you can do is just use that in your cold email. So there's different ways. You can use stuff like Script by Lead IQ. They have something like that where you're able to send emails. There's plenty of different tools you can use, but really the idea is to help you in your creative process and your writing process, and then include that in the tools. And you have many tools that are already integrating ChatGPT inside of it, so you can also do that.
Love it, love it. It seems like this is just like everyone's predicting. It's like your virtual assistant, right? You're helping scale your efforts. So you do this for yourself and for clients, right?
Yeah. So basically what I do is I personally, I do it for myself for booking meetings with prospects I'm interested in talking with, but I also train people through online courses on doing this. And I don't really run and build sequences for other people, but I typically train them on how to build sequences for themselves.
Love it, love it. And so what kind of open rates have you, so from using this strategy versus using, the way you were doing it before, my guess is like similar process, but similar things you're looking for, but a lot more manual work, right? You've got maybe VAs digging up details, contact information. What's your open rate? Have you noticed a difference or reply rate? Any change?
Yeah, so I've noticed, I'm mostly working with LinkedIn. In terms of open rates, there's something you can play with in terms of email title, subject titles. So that's really important there to do the same process where you train ChatGPT on what is a good subject line, and then it's going to come up with that. But for the replies, for example, I went to, I usually have a 38% reply rate. And now what I see is with ChatGPT, I get to 43, 44%. So I get a lot of really good replies where people are, really, before I wasn't able to make this connection where I was mentioning for example, I use ChatGPT to go and mention something specific in the profile of this person, and this boosts my reply rate. So I got a lot of things where I talked about, people talk about their achievements. So, let's say they do 143% of achievement, and I'm going to mention this very specific number. So this is the kind of thing that I've seen is I'm able to do this connection and get some good reply rates with that.
I love it. I love it. So really what I'm hearing from you is you're really using AI for extreme personalization, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like it's not that, I mean, I kind of hear this as like, let's just say pre-chat GPT 5 or 3.5, when it was open to the public, you literally have to use scrapers, VAs, and a slew of like mining to get this information. Yeah. Whereas the AI is like, boom, it's gonna grab it really, really easily. Yeah. And then you get a little bit of that cognitive thinking of like, okay, scan like maybe 20, 30 things, and it's deciding what's a good one, right? Yeah. And it's better than, I'd say, that whole process might have taken a human 2 hours to do, or maybe 15 minutes per person, but now it's like instantaneous. So I love it. It's like super scalable. And so my takeaways here are, you're not using AI for writing a shitty email, right? Like the emails are going to be bad and they're too long, they're too lengthy. Like you're using AI for hacking your research, drastically reducing the time and cost. And then you're using AI for personalization to grab information that you would normally do manually. So, I mean, to me, it's the best use. First of all, okay, lastly, 38% of reply rate to 40s reply rate. Both of those are amazing. What do you think? So before your AI stuff, before leveraging this stuff, 38% reply rate. How do you get there? What's the formula, secret sauce?
So the secret sauce is mostly consistency, but also making sure that you are using something where you use some kind of problem oriented messaging, where you're not selling your stuff and say, hey, I'm Thibaut Souyris and I'm going to sell you something, but more, hey, I noticed this thing. So it can be, let's say someone checked your profile, LinkedIn profile, or liked someone else's post, which is very common, about a specific problem. And then I can say, hey, noticed you've liked, this specific post about recruitment issues or something like that. And then what you're doing is you're asking a question, a problem-oriented question, where you say, how do you avoid or prevent this specific thing from happening. So how do you avoid, I don't know, wasting 30K, per miss hire? Because if you're interested, I have a quick resource or a small framework or playbook I can share on how to, like eliminate 60% of bad candidates in your hiring process. Interested in learning more? So basically, when you're using this message, you're not saying, "Hey, book a meeting with me, let's talk and everything," but saying, "Do you have this problem? If you do, I may have something for you, but you have to reply to get it." And so that's leveraging what I call the Netflix effect, where if you've been on binge watching on Netflix something, it's because they use cliffhangers at the end of each episode, and basically you want to know what's happening, so you keep watching. That's the same thing here. You say, "Do you have this problem? If you do, I have something to help. Just hit reply, and I'll actually tell you what it is." And so that's a really good way to get some good replies. And yeah, that's what I would say. And doing a lot of follow ups, obviously.
Love it. Where can people find your course? It feels like I need to go register for the course myself and take a quick refresher on these strategies. And what's awesome here is like what you describe isn't rocket science. It's just good old fashioned psychology, great research, leveraging AI to do that research, and then plugging it in, and again that like human review of like, is this actually good?
Yeah, exactly. That's the you use human psychology in the end, and that's the thing is you always are like, I read the really interesting stuff about I think it's called autonomous agents, where basically it's using taking the next level ChatGPT and basically you say, here's your goal, find all the steps you have to do to actually reach the goal and execute them. And so basically what was the saying in the article is that you're basically gonna have your ChatGPT or your autonomous agent speaking to another one, but we're not there yet. So we're still having humans making decisions. And so it's always understanding how these humans work. And we're all pretty much wired the same. So there's this thing called psychological bias. So that's why when you see someone recommends you someone else, that you're typically going to take it more than if it's a pure stranger. So it's really understanding these things and using AI for productivity and efficiency. So that's really, as you said, not rocket science. It's just this crazy, I would say, godsend that is AI, at least for this part of it. And it can make any SDR super efficient. And what I was recording a masterclass recently, what I was sharing is that I think the first time you're able to use ChatGPT as an SDR to make it basically do your job. So instead of spending 8 hours working, you can spend 2 hours working, get the same results. As long as your boss doesn't notice, you can basically free your time. And so that's really the real thing for me with AI is that it can help us free our time and do all these repetitive tasks and boring tasks and get it to do it yourself, get the AI to do it.
Love it, love it. Yeah, I think efficiency here is super high, and really, I think so. Let's say you're an SDR and you free that 6 hours of all this manual stuff you're doing.
Yeah.
From like, let's say from being the owner, manager, what have you, I don't care if my employees. I want results, right? Like everyone wants the results. Obviously, we want people to work hard. I'd take their 6 hours they freed up, go learn more stuff, right?
Yeah.
Go read a book on psychology, get better, right? Like, or twiddle your thumbs or follow up with leads. Like that buying your time back, it gives that SDR an army of people,
Yeah.
theoretically, but it's just AI kind of helping them scale and be more efficient. So it's amazing to kind of see how much it can do. So for those of you guys watching, listening, first of all, try this. Use AI, or just try that personalization. Mention something very specific, a problem, an achievement. Use that Netflix cliffhanger approach and just see how that works. And also sign up for SalesLab, right? Go that coaching route. 38-40% reply rate is unheard of at scale.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, I got this. You were asking where you could find this course, so I'll share the link with you on the AI course. But basically, yeah, for me, it's like using all these things. ChatGPT, I think, is really interesting. And as you said, if you can free up time, it's great because as an SDR, individual contributor, you can learn plenty of things. Or instead of getting maybe 12 opportunities out of 8 hours, I don't know, out of like 40 hours a week, you can get a lot more opportunities for the same amount of work. So it's really about you do whatever you want with the time it frees. Personally, I focus on enjoying life, but it's just a personal choice, and I don't have a boss, so that helps. But it's basically, it's really a good way to be super efficient, but you have to know the basics before.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I think that without the basics, none of this stuff works, right? Like this whole conversation is assuming you've got a demo to close rate kind of figured out, right?
Yeah,
Like assuming you've got a system working to close deals, now you need to amplify the number of demos and bookings done.
yeah,
That whole part and this part need to work together, but this can't work no matter how many demos you get. Can't work unless you get the what is your value prop? How do you actually,
yeah,
get on the phone, close them? A lot of, at Mailshake, we get, hundreds of customers through the door. And most of the biggest thing we tell people is like, don't rush going to scale. Figure out what you're going to sell. If you're just starting out your outbound sales prospecting or outbound sales, chances are you don't have your positioning down. You don't have your pitch. You don't have everything figured out.
yeah,
Don't go book 500 demos and then try to figure out what to do and how to close them. Book 10, learn, optimize, scale. And, that first 90, 120 days go super slow so that you can go laser fast or, really fast, afterwards.
yeah. Exactly.
Cool. Well, hey, thanks so much for joining. Follow your news. So there's going to be a bunch of links in the show notes here. Follow his LinkedIn newsletter. We're going to link to the AI course and look out for more content here from Mailshake.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me, Sujan. That was really good, and talk soon.
Take care.